But if I'm a little giddy today, it's because the Dallas Cowboys lost last night. You see, I'm sure, yeah, thank you. I'm a longtime Giants fan, so not only a Mets fan, you know, thank goodness my dad brought me up right, and I'm a Giants fan. Yes, 2 Super Bowls in the last 4.5 years. And you know, our season is starting off 2-2. Bad loss the other day against the hated Eagles, and I'm trying to figure out who do I hate more, the Eagles or the Cowboys? It's a toss-up. But why don't we just say both? So I'm a little happy anytime another team in the NFC East can lose is a good time. Okay. So Megan brought up some good stuff. So did Brian. I mean, I think we have a lot in common. I really do, because in both our fields, we have to work our butts off. You know. We really do. And I always say, you have to work hard to put yourself in position to be lucky. Because let's face it, both of our professions, more of it is just luck. It really is. You can be skilled in the proper areas, you know what they are in your business, I know what they are in my business. But you still gotta be at the right place, right time. And you gotta increase your odds to make that happen. And that's how I felt throughout my career. And what it all came down to was a base. And my base was I'm a crazy lunatic sports fan. And I was living my passion. And that's what it's about. Because you can always fall back on that. Because you can always say, you know what? I'm not having a great day, but I'm still doing what I love. And there are more days where I'm laughing than I'm stressed out. There are more days where I'm smiling with my colleagues than I'm crying in a bathroom with tears falling down my eyes saying, did that really just happen? So there's more good things than bad. But let me tell you a little bit about, the nutshell version of me. Growing up in New York, Dad, a big, huge sports fan. I had tremendously low self-esteem as a kid. I know that might be hard to believe when you hear me nonstop chattering right now. But I was the kid with the thick glasses, the wallflower, nobody talked to. I could melt into the carpet. And this is why when I grew up, I loved music, depressing music, by the way, not happy music. Only like, the Carpenters and, things like this, where the world was coming to an end. And unfortunately for Karen Carpenter, it did. And those who are old like me know who that is and what happened to her. Rainy days and Mondays, just really depressing things, hurting each other. These were my favorite songs growing up. But I did like sports too, because why? Because it gave me time with my dad. And that bonding time was key for a father and daughter. But not only that, it gave a girl like me something to look forward to. When you're a kid with low self-esteem, you're not looking forward to, anything in school, getting together with friends. You're looking forward to sitting on that couch with your dad watching the next big game. And that's what it was about with me. And it really kind of helped fill a void. And, I make jokes about it, but there's so many women especially that grow up needing that situation to feel good about themselves, because that can go a long way. And it's a message I passed on to my 2 kids. I have a son and a daughter. But back to me, because that's what this is about, not a life story. So anyway, great bonding, low self-esteem. I put the Carpenters aside. It was all about the Giants, the Knicks, the Rangers, and yes, the Mets. Yeah, we'll move on. We don't want to even talk about the Mets. I don't want to ruin our day. Talking about depressing baseball team. Actually, baseball is a dying sport, but that's for another conversation. But you know what? So after that, I kind of fed off that. But that wasn't enough just watching sports with my dad. I needed to play sports because I was still that wallflower in school, and I was yearning for that attention. I wanted to be, in fact, the center of attention. The wallflower wanted to be the center of attention. So what better way to do that? Why don't I play ice hockey? What? Ice hockey? All right, this was like back in the dark ages, people. There were no girls playing ice hockey. There just wasn't about that. I lived on Long Island, growing up in Long Island. My great mother found a place, a rink, where actually girls were allowed to play ice hockey with the boys. I was 14, but you were only allowed to play with boys that were 8 years old. True.
Wow.
Can you believe it? Now here's the thing. This was my dream. This was my first dream job, to play ice hockey. So my wonderful mother, and not only that, I wanted to be a goalie. There's a lot of irony there because the goalies wear the mask. So I just had the ponytail in the back, but no one saw me. And again, remember, girl with a low self-esteem, just want to do my thing, wear the goalie mask, also be the center of attention. Everything depended on how well I played. Everyone would like me if I played well. So I'm playing with 8-year-old boys. All right, I'll do it. Here's the thing. This is how much I wanted to play hockey. My mother got me the 40 pounds of goalie equipment, which really back then it was 40 pounds of goalie equipment. And the issue was, though, one problem. I didn't know how to skate. That didn't stop me for some bizarre reason. I think the 40 pounds of goalie equipment helped my equilibrium, and I was able to balance. And I just stepped out on the ice because I had played street hockey. I had the goalie skills. I found out that I was actually good on the street. Could it transfer onto the ice? Well, I managed through. I figured it out. I learned to skate as I went. But it's interesting. I could not skate if you took all the goalie equipment off. Really, because when you do those public skating sessions, and I tried that, I'm like, why can't I skate? I needed the 40 extra pounds of weight. But anyway, so I graduated at 12-year-olds. So I did so well as a 14-year-old goalie. No more 8-year-olds. They moved me up to 12-year-olds. And then I thought, let me do something really daring as I moved up the ladder. And I was so used to getting the looks. The looks of like, what is this girl doing here playing with my son? And this is where I started growing extra layers of skin. And this really prepared me for the career that I have now. Having extra layers of skin to block out the whispers, to block out what people were saying behind your back, to block it all out, to just focus in on what you want to do, focus in on your passion and what makes you happy. And little did I know that would come into play later in my life, just because I wanted to play ice hockey with the boys, and it worked out. So in high school, as we fast forward, I wanted to play for the high school hockey team, the boys team. So in my junior year, I tried out with all like 12 goalies. I didn't make it, but I opened up some eyes. I came back in my senior year, and the key with this is, I'll never forget it. I made the hockey team. I made the boys team. The reason why I bring this up is how I found out. Back then, there were no ladies' dressing rooms. Remember, there were no women playing hockey where I was on Long Island. And I had a dress in the ladies' room. I had a dress, the 40 pounds of equipment with the ice skates, the whole thing, in the ladies' room. It's just in a hockey rink. It's so tiny. There was a knock on the door. It was the coach. The coach comes in, and he tells me I made the hockey team. The first words I said out of my mouth, 5 words, I'll never forget it. I said, I won't let you down. I won't let you down. He went on a limb to pick a girl to play for the high school hockey team, my high school. It worked out great. We won about 16 games, a 32-game season. I wasn't the starter, but I beat out 6 other goalies to be the backup. But the point is, those 5 words, I won't let you down. And those 5 words came into play later in my life. For every male employer that took a chance on me, hired a woman to talk sports. Every time I would say, I won't let you down. Because I remember to just stay on track. What am I doing? I'm doing what I love, and I want to share that, and that's what I want to be. So, picking a college, Oswego State, New York. Why would I pick Oswego State, New York? Well, they had a women's ice hockey team. They also had beautiful sunsets. And they also had a communication studies broadcasting major. Well, the sunset, that could have been my first choice. Actually, I had the second best sunset in the world, next to Japan. Don't ask me, I don't know why, but it just did. Oswego, right near Syracuse on Lake Ontario. For those who don't know, and I don't blame you, where the heck is Oswego? But the thing is, I got off to a great start because, I don't know if any of you guys can relate, you go to college, you're away from home, you're all excited, you're playing sports. I was playing tennis and hockey, and intro to broadcasting. 100 lecture series course, easy A, intro to broadcasting, my dream. I wanted to be, in broadcasting, right? I got a D+ in intro to broadcasting. Then I took intro to mass media. This is all first semester freshman. intro to mass media, I got a C. So great start, Linda. You got a D+ average in your major. Way to go. This is what you want, right? And 1.8 grade point average, first semester freshman. So I had to give up the tennis. The tennis was gone, but I held up to the hockey. And I realized, you don't study the same. When you're in high school where I never studied, and you go to college, you actually have to pick up a book now and then. So along the way, I learned to study, and the grades went up and up. But there was a conversation I had way back in 1979. Again, I'm dating myself, but I was a sophomore at Oswego State. And my friend Allison and my friend Sherry, and you've probably had these conversations with friends in college as you look back, and that conversation went to the tune of, what do you want to be when you graduate college? What's your dream? And this was 1979, and I said to Sherry, my friend, who asked the question, I said, in a perfect world, I want to be a sports broadcaster. Now you got to remember, 1979, the only woman I recall on TV associated in any capacity doing sports was Phyllis George, a former Miss America, who sat between Brent Musburger and Irv Cross and NFL Today on CBS. And nobody really associated Phyllis with any sort of sports knowledge. She was just eye candy. So here I am telling my friends I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. And they basically looked at me and thought I was nuts and crazy and laughed. And from that moment on, every time I was introduced by one of my friends, I would be introduced to any new people. This is my friend Linda. She is a hockey player and wants to be a sports broadcaster. And you can just imagine the reaction I got way back when I brought that up. So it's kind of interesting that in your life, when you don't know things mean something, they end up meaning something. And throughout the years, I've gotten some great advice, and I'm sure you guys have too, but you don't remember everything. And a lot of the advice isn't that great, and a lot of the advice is wonderful, but it's interesting what you remember. And I remember two pieces of advice that really helped me in Oswego. One of them was at Oswego State. I was a professor, and he's a TV production guy. He taught that class, which, by the way, by the time I got up to TV production, I did well, I got a B. But he told me, listen, Linda, if you want to be in broadcasting, and if you plan to get a job outside the New York metropolitan area, you got to lose that accent. That's not going to work. And if you want a job in the New York metropolitan area, that's really hard to get, because that's the #1 media market in the world. So I said, okay, how am I going to lose the accent? So he gave me this tip. And it really works for any accent you're trying to lose, or if you know someone who wants to lose an accent. And he basically said, talk slower and open your mouth wider when you speak. Talk slower, open your mouth wider when you speak. And when you do so, you will lose most of your accent. The funny part is, it did work for me, and I was able to get a job outside the New York metropolitan area, which was nice. But when I reverted back to off-camera, off-mic, well, the accent came back. I went into blah, 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 New York mode, Long Island, the whole thing. And I kind of like that because I kept who I was about. So I lost the accent when I needed to, still kept what I really was when I didn't have to. The other piece of advice I got, once I graduated college, in my business, being a woman in a man's world trying to make it in the sports field, where there were hardly any women involved, was a guy by the name of Ted Shaker. He was running CBS Sports at the time. This was early 80s, after I graduated. I only had 10 minutes with the guy, 10 minutes to make an impact. And I basically listened to what he had to say. He liked me, he heard my work on the radio. I was doing sports updates at the time. And he said, the most important thing for you is really one thing. Be accurate. That's right, be accurate. Don't screw up, don't make a mistake, don't mispronounce a name, don't say a rule that doesn't exist, don't do anything to make people think you don't know about sports. And he would say, I know you know about sports, but you make one mistake, when men can make 20, you're screwed. So if it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 times to go over something, do it. Be accurate. So as we know, we get pieces of advice, it's your decision whether you remember it. And those two pieces of advice really helped me along the year. And I mentioned Seattle, and I know some of you guys obviously are from Seattle.